What are the characteristics of research? Those are quite simple. This is Mamaika and you're still watching Research Simplified. What makes research different from all the other types of technical writing? For today, we're going to talk about 7 characteristics. And these are empirical, logical, cyclical, analytical, critical, methodical, and replaceability. Let's start. The first trait is empirical. Research is empirical if it is based on observation. Now, when you hear the word observation, I want you to think of your 5 senses: the sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell, sense of taste, and sense of touch. It is through observation using our 5 senses that we can say that our data are evidence-based and can be proven. Again, research by nature is empirical because we use observation in data gathering. The second characteristic is logical. Research is logical because it can be validated. The only way for us to say that a certain study is valid is if it measures what it intends to measure. For example, a thermometer. A thermometer intends to measure the temperature. We cannot use a thermometer to measure the weight of a person, in the same way that we cannot use a weighing scale to get the temperature of someone. On that note, using a thermometer to measure the weight of a person makes our thermometer invalid. But if we're going to use a thermometer to measure the temperature of someone, then it is valid. Research, therefore, should always be logical. It should have the ability to measure what it intends to measure. And that, of course, is based on the topic or the research problem. Again, research is logical if it measures what it intends to measure. The third characteristic that we have is cyclical. From the word cycle, research is cyclical if it begins with a problem and ends with a problem. Now I hear you. Why do we have to start with a problem and still end with a problem? That may sound crazy and such a waste of time, right? But that is really how it goes in research. That is, we begin with our problem, and then by the end of our discussion of our research, once you have found the answers to the questions that you've asked in your statement of the problem, that is when you ask further questions so that if ever other researchers find your study interesting and they want to continue on looking for additional knowledge about it, then they may opt to do so. That is also why future researchers are always included in the recommendations. Again, research is cyclical if it begins with a problem and ends with another problem. The fourth characteristic is analytical. Research is analytical if it uses proven analytical procedures in data gathering. When we say analysis, this means breaking down of something into its parts. For example, I ask you to analyze an electric fan. What you're going to do is you're going to break down the electric fan into its parts. I'm not saying you're going to destroy the electric fan, okay? I'm saying you have to identify its parts, say its power cord, its plug, its gears, its motor housing, and all its other parts. Through that, or by doing so, that is when we can finally say that you've analyzed that particular electric fan. The same thing goes with research. But when it comes to research, the analysis depends highly on the kind of research that you are writing. For example, you are writing a quantitative research. Then you're going to identify the variables. Whereas if you are writing a qualitative research, then you're going to identify the themes. In analyzing quantitative research, we use statistical tools and treatments to examine the data that we've gathered. However, in qualitative research writing, we identify the themes through the use of thematic analysis. Later on, we will have a separate video on these, so don't worry, you'll understand everything about it. Again, research is analytical if it uses proven analytical procedures in data gathering. The next one is critical. Research is critical if it exhibits careful and precise judgment. In research writing, we have to be very careful when it comes to jumping into conclusions. Always remember to not be subjective in interpreting the results, to always be objective or non-biased in doing so. Let us not allow our emotions to take over and strive to be honest in delivering the results of our study. It is also very important that we look into the related literature first and make a comparative analysis between our study and the studies of others so that we can be certain that ours is valid and reliable. Again, research is critical if it exhibits careful and precise judgment. The sixth characteristic is methodical. Research is methodical if it follows a systematic procedure. At this point, let me introduce the term model thesis. As I was writing my research paper, I was advised to look for a model thesis or something very similar to my topic. This model thesis is intended to guide me as I perform my study. And mind you, it truly helps, especially in the methodology part, wherein we state the procedures that we're going to do in gathering our data. Research is methodical because it should always follow a systematic procedure, which of course depends also on the type of research that you are writing. We will also be having a separate video on methodology, so keep posted. The last term is replicability. Research has replicability if the research design and procedures may be repeated and still arrive at valid results. In the same way that we used a model thesis, our study should also serve as a model thesis for other researchers. That is, if they want to conduct the same study in a different setup or to change some of the variables, our study should have replicability for the quality of being repeated and still arrive at valid results. If it is not replicable, then it is not valid. That's it for our short and simple discussion for today. I hope that you've learned and understood the 7 characteristics of research. This has been Ma'am Micah. Thank you and God bless.